Titanic Talk with Nelson and Alexandra Boyd. Here we feature stories from the independent documentary Ship of Dreams Titanic movie diaries and everything else to do with the iconic ship. From James Cameron's epic groundbreaking movie to the history and legacy of Titanic herself. Join us and our special guests as we continue the 25th anniversary celebrations of Titanic. This is your first-class ticket to everything aboard the Ship of Dreams.
My name is Nelson and you are joining part of our Titanic Talk. And today's Titanic Talk is taking us all across this great United States of America. My lovely co-host Alexandra Boyd is coming to you from somewhere in the snowy wilderness inside her car, pulled over on the side of the road. And our special guests today will be coming to you from two parts of Southern California that have still managed to not be washed away by the current rains. And I am coming to you from New York City. My co-host Alexandra, I should point out, is not only an actress who appeared in James Cameron's Titanic film, she is the producer, director, and writer of the documentary Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, which is a marvelous way to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Cameron's film and give us an excuse to talk about anything related to the White Star Line and just have a community chat. As we go through the process, feel free to put your comments and questions into the comment section below, and that will give us fodder for future episodes and maybe even find some also upcoming guests as well. Alexandra, you were lucky enough to have a featured role as the first-class woman who cocks an eyebrow, if you'll pardon the expression, at Leonardo DiCaprio. But a lot of actors, myself included, when we're starting out, we did survival jobs doing extra work. I was an extra on lots of soap operas, and it gave me a great education. You've talked a lot in the documentary about working on Titanic with James Cameron was kind of your film school. Is background acting and extra work? I think it was a great way to learn the business. Is that a good thing, in addition to also making money while you're working on it?
Absolutely. And in fact, in my early days, when I was at theatre school, I was a dancer when I first started. And in my summer holidays, I would they'd be shooting a BBC drama, and there was always, they wanted local people to participate as background actors. And it was a really nice way to make some money. I did not work on a production as huge as Titanic. And I think when we talk a bit to Judy and Ellen, I don't know if they quite expected when they signed up that they would be involved in such an epic film, and for them an epic experience, because it was unlike no other. And you and I were talking last time about if you really pay attention, and if you know the main story so well, you can take your eye off the main characters and start looking around the frame and around the scene, and you will see Judy and Ellen and myself as well. You know, if you know where to look, or if you just play the game of like, right, this go through, I'm gonna look for Judy and the third class dance scene or whatever. It's a really great game. And I know when James Cameron was looking for the supporting roles that many of us played, he wanted to repeat people. He wanted to create this city that was on the ship, so that again, as the main characters were going through, you would see recurring people who were in the dining room or in the third class. You'd be on the third class deck, and then you'd be in the dance scene, and then you'd be clinging to the poop deck as your life was slipping away from you. He wanted those all to be the same people, and of course, in the end, you know, so many of us and what we did just never made it to the final film. But that was his intention, was not just to randomly people his film. And that was why I think Judy and Ellen, we'll hear a little bit from them too. Judy and Ellen became like this stalwart for Jim and for Simon Crane, the stunt coordinator, that they were constantly called upon, because the longer they were there, the more skills they required and were required to be part of this amazing film. It wasn't just walking on the street or sitting in a coffee bar in the background. It was real stuff. So let's get on and find out from them exactly what their experiences were.
Because I was going to say, because subconsciously you become, as an audience, as a viewer, you become more invested in it. It's this little city, this neighborhood that you have put yourself into, and you're like, there's that guy and that guy and that guy. And as Cecil B. DeMille, if you go back to the earliest days of film, he would have a cast of thousands, and there would be, you know, literally hundreds or thousands of extras storming the pyramids or whatever it was he set up. Nowadays, we rely so much on digital special effects. And although there are certainly digital people falling off the ship at the end of Titanic, you couldn't have done that purely with CGI. So launch us into introducing us to our two guests today, who were core background players in James Cameron's Titanic.
Well, and to me, they come as a pair. They're Judy Prestininzi and Ellen O'Brien. And I want them to talk about how they met and how they got to be, and 25 years later, still friends. Judy and Ellen, welcome to Titanic Talk.
Thank you so much.
Ellen, just tell us a little bit about your first day, not on set, but the day you all showed up to see if you were going to be chosen for this special job.
Well, that was a rather fun one. I think we both drove up down from San Diego and parked at what was the name of the place that we parked? What was this taco place that we parked?
Senor Frogs.
That's right. Which was quite appropriate if you really think about it. I was working at home doing some illustrations, and I happened to hear an ad on TV about a film being made and a casting call. And I thought, oh, well, this should be fun. I did maxillofacial prosthetic work for a while, and I was interested in behind the scenes type of special effects makeup type thing at the time. I had no idea this was going to be what it turned out to be. And I'm so glad that I actually went in and did this interview at the beginning of the deal.
How long were you there? From that day till the day you wrapped and were all sent home, what was that time like?
I think it was about 6.5 months or more.
Yeah. Wow. Just shy of 7 months.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you had to make yourselves available for that. I mean, did you have other jobs, or were you sort of in that situation where like I've committed myself, but it wasn't a defined amount of time. It could have gone on for another 2 months, or there was a month when you weren't needed because it was all, principal. How did you balance the way you were needed for the film?
Well, for me, it was in between jobs. Judy?
It was because, went back to where I heard about it. My son was working at Cal Poly, and he called me up one night and told me that they were making Titanic again. So I listened to the news, and I think it was like one evening, same thing with Ellen, heard the announcement. So I thought I'd go down. I thought it'd be fun because I'd always had an interest. And so we both went down, and that was before GPS and everything else. And they tell
had you known each other prior to this, or did you meet?
Not at all.
So you met through the job, and
it was because.
And how did you come together? Were you in the pool together, jumping off the board?
No, it was because of our cars. I drove a '62 Alfa Romeo, and Judy.
I had a '62 Chevy SS. So
we drove nerves, obviously.
We drove our classic cars down, and that's how we started talking. And when we first got down there, the very first thing, they wanted to know who had long hair. Ellen and I both had long hair. So they lined us up, And then they wanted to know who could swim. And then that following, what was it, like maybe 2 or 3 days later, we went to have the swim test in Mexico down at one of the sports centers.
Swim test. What did
Swim
you have
test.
to do? Did you have to swim in all your clothes as well? Because you didn't have. I mean, tell me about the swim test.
Gosh, I don't know. We did not
for the
have our
test itself.
costumes
We
then.
had to bring our swimsuits for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
But
then
we
they
had to-
took us up on this 30-foot high platform and wanted to know who could scream. Ellen told me I had a good outdoor voice.
Yes, she does.
All those years when you were a kid and they said, use your indoor voice. Now it came into play.
I was raised on a ranch and that's how we communicated. So I could be very, very loud.
We don't want to give too much away from the documentary because I know you tell some amazing stories in the documentary, but just tell me, pick one of your most favorite moments during your experience. What, when you look back or when you see the film again now, or maybe it didn't make it to the movie, just talk about some of your favorite bits.
Well, I always remember the poop deck scenes that we shot because they were fun, they were exciting, and they were also scary at times, especially when we were in a windstorm. That was the most yes.
You were tied to the deck. You weren't going anywhere, but that was part of the problem. But again, we don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
So that was your most fun, was hanging on a 90-degree angle on a vertical poop deck.
Well, it wasn't always at 90 degrees. We always, they started off, and then we were only probably at the 90 degrees just a few times. So we were more up and down on the poop deck. And it was all shot at night, of course. And it was in the dead of winter because all the nights were longer. And gosh, there were just so many that Ellen and I had to like beg, borrow, and steal to get on that poop deck scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There were lots of volunteers. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, there's
like,
2 different poop deck scenes that we're talking about too, because the poop deck scene that you see at the end of before the boat was about to sink. That was one scene. The other one that I was referring to about being tied to the railings and stuff like that. That's the very first one, and 2 completely different scenes. One was our ending, and the other one was in between there. And I think you were talking about the middle one, yes, or the last.
Yeah, we
last
were.
scene.
I do remember Chris Anderson, the dancer. He had been originally cast or hired to teach the background, the folk dances that were going to be in the third class party scene. Were you both in that? I know Judy.
Yeah.
I've seen Judy. Did you have to learn? Okay, so you were swimming, you were jumping off 30-foot diving boards, you were being carabined to vertical poop decks, 2 of them, and you had to learn to dance.
Well, at that time I had the baby in my hands the whole time.
You didn't have to dance. You had a baby.
I didn't really dance a whole lot with my baby.
You played the baby card. You played the baby card. And if you know the film,
where's that baby now? That baby's 25 years old now.
Looks the same as she did or he did.
Oh, LA.
Yeah.
We mummified it.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you know the film, you know exactly the moment we're talking about. So that's a fun. Judy, you had to learn some dances?
Well, Chris didn't really. They'd picked a few people. It was more I don't know who they were. I guess it was their dance crew. So, but we just kind of like when they finally had us going, we just kind of went and wormed our way around the set. We didn't really have to learn the dance.
Wormed your way around the set. I like that. And there was a sort of line as well at one point.
Being an extra on a soap opera, you had to be aggressive. You had to, they need somebody to cross the room at a certain point. you don't be shy and demure. You cross that room. If you want to be on camera, you go.
Yeah.
Go, baby, go. So
Yeah.
the two of you obviously make a great case for why it's a great job to be a background player. I want to know if you did more background work after Titanic. If so, what films or TV shows were they, and can anything compare?
Because you'd have come highly qualified. You'd had a really good resume. Look, pick me.
I don't think anything could compare to it. Absolutely.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah.
Billy Zane, I met Billy Zane one night, and because we got to eat at the grown-up tent. And he, and I asked him if he would sign my journal, and he said, sure. And so when I brought it to him, he says, is this your first time on a big set? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, you're cutting your teeth on a good one. And I had been on Renegade a couple of times, but we just kind of sat there. And anyway, so after Titanic, I really didn't do a whole lot because of things. And back in 2003, that's when Ed Marsh called and said, you want to do Titanic again?
Oh, that's right. You did Ghosts of the Abyss.
They wanted to know if I had kept a list of people, and I had the whole sheet.
Of course you did.
I had certain people like Ellen to call, and so we went back down and did Ghosts of the Abyss for 7 or 8 days. We were down in Rosarita again.
Sorry, I want you to tell us about your book, because Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, is excerpts from diaries that we wrote, but I didn't know that independently you had kept a journal and you published it. Tell me a little bit about your book and where people can find it and read it in its entirety.
It's on Amazon, and I kept a daily journal when I was on the set, and when I could, I would carry it with me, and it was about this big, and I carried it with me, and I had as many actors and background people and crew sign it as I possibly could. And so I've got all their signatures, and Cameron called me his bloody dead chick because he put blood on my face for one of the scenes. And so I kept it, and I didn't know how to do anything after Titanic. My son wanted me to get a computer. I said, I don't need a computer. I have a self-correcting typewriter. So I did get a computer, and then so I typed everything out, and as I went through my journal, I could enhance on things that I had that it would cue me to remember. So actually, from start to finish, it took me about 12 years to get it done. And I went to several publishers. I even had Don Lynch and Ken Marshall try to introduce me. And they said, well, there's just not enough interest in Titanic. There's too many Titanic books out. So I had to self-publish.
Wrong!
Well, what you haven't said, Judy, because you're too modest, is you haven't said the title of the book. It's Living the Legend, the Journal of a Titanic Background
Actor.
Yes. I got it on my wish list here on my laptop, and I was looking at Kindle edition. You can get the Kindle edition, you can get it printed. So yeah, Living the Legend, the Journal of a Titanic Background Actress. So that's marvelous. And I think Ken, as much as I respect and adore Ken and Mr. Lynch, I think they just want to keep that book market for themselves. So I'm glad.
No, they wrote the. If you look on the back of the book, they both wrote their reviews on the back of the book for me, and they really tried. They were surprised. It was just, I guess, the publishing world. But I spent like $1,000 to self-publish it, and I must say that it took me from when I published it, 2012 to now. Last year I finally broke even.
There you go. And Living the Legend is a much better title than Bloody Dead Chick, which was probably the working title.
But that was, to me, that was the most fun, being able to be with Cameron right up front. There was one scene where Kate and I are together, and we were actually wrestling, and they kind of cut it where I look like I'm getting pushed back after the ship sinks and we come to the surface. We actually had to hold each other, and they cut that and made it look like I was pushing away from her, where she actually pushed me away. But you don't see that little, what, 5-10 seconds of that.
It is amazing, isn't it, when you watch something that you've spent so much time doing, and on the day it was so intense and it, hard, just difficult stuff, and then it gets reduced down to seconds. Seconds.
But those seconds are the things that the Titaniacs remember. We all know it. We can pin. You say, Judy, all you had to do was say that, and we all have it right locked in our brains. Ellen, have you seen the new theatrical release version yet? Have you been back to the cinemas to see the anniversary edition?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, did you guys go together?
We did go together, and we ended up going to one that has these
The 4D.
whatever. Yeah. And we thought, oh geez, what are we gonna do? And we sat down in these seats and we looked at the little buttons, and one of the first buttons we saw is water. And it's like, okay, we're going to turn that one off. After all, that's what Titanic's all about, is the water. And it was cold. So.
I bet the people around you must have been like, hey, ladies, can you keep it down? Weren't you just like talking to the screen?
Oh, sure, we were.
I've done that.
We had a great time.
I've watched it on TV with a friend and driven them crazy, going, oh, that's the bit where, and you can't help. It just triggers all these memories and all these moments.
It does.
It's just.
And I'm kind of sad in a way, because I don't think I've ever really seen the movie for the movie itself. I've seen it for the movie and for what we were doing while we were there in the scenes there. So,
for you, it's a home movie. I mean, this is the equivalent of like your home movie, and that's what's remarkable to me too. Alexandra was telling me about like you ladies wrote your diaries on the set. The lady that played Ida Strauss had written a diary, but she's no longer with us, but we'll always have that moment of her work in the film, just like we have home movies of loved ones, and that's a way to remember people. And Judy, you spoke so movingly in the documentary about that. I'm not going to do any spoilers, but in the Ship of Dreams documentary, Judy, you gave us all goosebumps when you spoke about the memories that the movie brings back for you as well.
Yeah, what a wonderful thing to have for all of us, but especially for you. And it's just the love and the affection for what is essentially a hugely tragic story is extraordinary, and it's what I try to explore in the film. I think you'll see, and it still keeps coming back to the ship itself and how its epic story draws us all in. You can't help but be connected to it and drawn in by it in some way.
There were 9. Go ahead, Elle.
I was going to say, they're talking about the movie, seeing the movie and stuff like that. Well, Judy and I went with a whole bunch of San Diego extras to the opening day here in San Diego, and it got to the point where, and of course, a lot of other people came to see it because this was the first day of this showing, here in San Diego, and it came to my scene where I was floating by dead with my baby, like this, and everybody that was on the set with us started applauding and cheering. And I felt so bad about the poor people who actually came to experience the movie.
I have
for
no
the movie
idea
itself.
what.
It's like amazing. Like, there's Dad Ellen and her ugly baby.
That could be the sequel to Bloody Dead Chick.
We could do this all day. I mean, there's so much to talk about, and there's so many things that you guys just really don't know.
Maybe that's makes for the best. Didn't you like get bits of the set? Didn't you dumpster dive and get bits from the props and panels and things?
I actually have a banister from the staircase that I restored, and when we had our reunion for Ghost of the Abyss 5 years afterwards, I took that to Jim's place, and we actually discussed how I did it and everything, which was a whole lot of fun.
Because they just crashed everything. They didn't think that movie set, they didn't think that people would actually want it or keep it or caress it and be part of it. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh, we could do this all day, but that's the whole reason we have Titanic Talk. So we will continue the discussion in future podcasts. We will watch Ship of Dreams, Titanic movie diaries, and hear some of the juiciest stories from Judy and Ellen. We will get Living the Legend, the Journal of a Titanic Background Actress, written by Judy. Get that on Amazon. Alexandra Boyd, director, producer, writer, star of Ship of Dreams, Titanic movie diaries. Thank you so much. Please encourage everyone not only to enjoy this podcast, but put in comments and questions and ideas and suggestions for future podcasts of Titanic Talk.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. And if you'd like to hear more podcasts like this, hit the subscribe button. For information on where you can see Ship of Dreams, Titanic movie diaries, go to shipofdreamsfilm.com. Titanic Talk is a production of Ship of Dreams Film Limited.